saddlebags beneath an elm. By then the trout was crisply done. Sir Creighton brought her a fish, and she sat cross-legged on the ground to eat it. "We are bound for Duskendale, my lady," Longbow told her as he pulled apart his own trout with his fingers. "You would do well to ride with us. The roads are perilous." Brianna could have told him more about the perils of the roads than he might have cared to know. "I thank you, sir, but I have no need of your protection." "I insist. A true knight must defend the gentler sex." She touched her sword hilt. "This will defend me, sir." "A sword is only as good as the man who wields it." "I wield it well enough." "As you will. It would not be courteous to argue with a lady. We will see you safe to Duskendale. 3 together may ride more safely than 1 alone." "We were 3 when we set out from River Run, yet Jamie lost his hand and Cleos Frey his life." "Your mounts could not keep up with mine." Sir Creighton's brown gelding was an old sway-backed creature with rheumy eyes, and Sir Illifer's horse looked weedy and half-starved. "My steed served me well enough back on the Blackwater," Sir Creighton insisted. "Why, I did great carnage there and won 12 ransoms. Was milady familiar with Sir Herbert Bowling? You shall never meet him now. I slew him where he stood. When swords clash, you shall ne'er find Sir Creighton Longbow to the rear." His companion gave a dry chuckle. "Craig, leave off. The likes of her has no need for the likes of us." "The likes of me?" Brianna was uncertain what he meant. Sir Illifer crooked a bony finger at her shield. Though its paint was cracked and peeling, the device it bore showed plain. A black bat on a field divided bandwise, silver and gold. "You bear a liar's shield to which you have no right. My grandfather's grandfather helped kill the last of Lothston. None since has dared to show that bat black as the deeds of them that bore it." The shield was the one Sir Jamie had taken from the armory at Harrenhal. Brianna had found it in the stables with her mare along with much else. Saddle and bridle, chainmail hauberk, and visored great helm. Purses of gold and silver, and a parchment more valuable than either. "I lost mine own shield," she explained. "A true knight is the only shield a maiden needs," declared Sir Creighton stoutly. Sir Illifer paid him no mind. "A barefoot man looks for a boot, a chilly man a cloak. But who would cloak themselves in shame? Lord Lucas bore that bat, the pander, and Manfred of the Black Hood his son. Why wear such arms, I ask myself, unless your own sin is fouler still, and fresher?" He unsheathed his dagger, an ugly piece of cheap iron. "A woman freakish big and freakish strong who hides her own true colors. Craig, behold the maid of Tarth who opened Renly's royal throat for him." "That is a lie." Renly Baratheon had been more than a king to her. She had loved him since first he came to Tarth on his leisurely lord's progress to mark his coming of age. Her father welcomed him with a feast and commanded her to attend, elsewise she would have hidden in her room like some wounded beast. She had been no older than Sansa, more afraid of sniggers than of swords. "They will know about the rose," she told Lord Selwyn. "They will laugh at me." But the Evenstar would not relent. And Renly Baratheon had shown her every courtesy, as if she were a proper maid, and pretty. He even danced with her, and in his arms she felt graceful, and her feet had floated across the floor. Later, others begged to dance with her because of his example. From that day forth, she wanted only to be close to Lord Renly, to serve him and protect him. But in the end, she failed him. Renly died in my arms, but I did not kill him, she thought. But these hedge knights would never understand. "I would have given my life for King Renly and died happily," she said. "I did no harm to him. I swear it by my sword." "A knight swears by his sword," Sir Creighton said. "Swear it by the 7, urged Illifer the Penniless. "By the 7, then. I did no harm to King Renly. I swear it by the mother. May I never know her mercy if I lie. I swear it by the father and ask that he might judge me justly. I swear it by the maiden and crone, by the smith and the warrior. And I swear it by the stranger. May he take me now if I am false. She swears well for a maid, Sir Creighton allowed. Aye, Sir Illiffer the Penniless gave a shrug. Well, if she's lied, the gods will sort her out. He slipped his dagger back away. First watch is yours. As the hedge knights slept, Brienne paced restlessly around the little camp, listening to the crackle of the fire. I should ride on whilst I can. She did not know these men, yet she could not bring herself to leave them undefended. Even in the black of night there were riders on the road, and noises in the woods that might or might not have been owls and prowling foxes. So Brienne paced and kept her blade loose in its scabbard. Her watch was easy, all in all. It was after that was hard, when Sir Illiffer woke and said he would relieve her. Brienne spread a blanket on the ground and curled up to close her eyes. I will not sleep, she told herself, bone-weary though she was. She had never slept easily in the presence of men. Even in Lord Renly's camps, the risk of rape was always there. It was a lesson she had learned beneath the walls of Highgarden, and again when she and Jaime had fallen into the hands of the brave companions. The cold in the earth seeped through Brienne's blankets to soak into her bones. Before long, every muscle felt clenched and cramped from her jaw down to her toes. She wondered whether Sansa Stark was cold as well, wherever she might be. Lady Catelyn had said that Sansa was a gentle soul who loved lemon cakes, silken gowns, and songs of chivalry. Yet the girl had seen her father's head lopped off and been forced to marry one of his killers afterward. If half the tales were true, the dwarf was the cruelest Lannister of all. If she did poison King Joffrey, the imp surely forced her hand. She was alone and friendless at that court. In King's Landing, Brienne had hunted down a certain Umbrella who had been one of Sansa's maids. The woman told her that there was little warmth between Sansa and the dwarf. Perhaps she had been fleeing him as well as Joffrey's murder. Whatever dreams Brienne dreamed were gone when dawn awoke her. Her legs were stiff as wood from the cold ground, but no one had molested her, and her goods remained untouched. The hedge knights were up and about. Sir Illiffer was cutting up a squirrel for breakfast, while Sir Creighton stood facing a tree, having himself a good long piss. Hedge knights, she thought. Old and vain and plump and nearsighted, yet decent men for all that. It cheered her to know that there were still decent men in the world. They broke their fast on roast squirrel, acorn paste, and pickles, whilst Sir Creighton regaled her with his exploits on the Blackwater, where he had slain a dozen fearsome knights that she had never heard of. Oh, it was a rare fight, my lady, he said. A rare and bloody fray. He allowed that Sir Illiffer had fought nobly in the battle as well. Illiffer himself said little. When time came to resume their journey, the knights fell in on either side of her, like guards protecting some great lady, though this lady dwarfed both of her protectors and was better armed and armored in the nonce. Did anyone pass by during your watches? Brienne asked them. Such as a maid of 3 and 10 with auburn hair, said Sir Illiffer the Penniless. No, my lady, no one. I had a few, Sir Creighton put in. Some farm boy on a piebald horse went by, and an hour later 6 men afoot with staves and scythes. They caught sight of our fire and stopped for a long look at our horses, but I showed them a glimpse of my steel and told them to be along their way. Rough fellows by the look of them, and desperate too, but ne'er so desperate as to trifle with Sir Creighton Longbow. No, Brienne thought, not so desperate as that. She turned away to hide her smile. Thankfully, Sir Creighton was too intent on the tale of his epic battle with the Knight of the Red Chicken to make note of the maiden's mirth. It felt good to have companions on the road, even such companions as these two. It was midday when Brienne heard chanting drifting through the bare brown trees. What is that sound? Sir Creighton asked. Voices raised in prayer. Brienne knew the chant. They are beseeching the warrior for protection, asking the crone to light their way. Sir Illiffer the Penniless bared his battered blade and reined in his horse to wait their coming. They're close now. The chanting filled the woods like pious thunder, and suddenly the source of the sound appeared in the road ahead. A group of begging brothers led the way, scruffy, bearded men in rough-spun robes, some barefoot and some in sandals. Behind them marched 80 ragged men, women, and children, a spotted sow, and several sheep. Several of the men had axes, and more had crude wooden clubs and cudgels. In their midst there rolled a 2-wheeled wain of gray and splintered wood, piled high with skulls and broken bits of bone. When they saw the hedge knights, the begging brothers halted and the chanting died away. "Good nights," one said. "The mother loves you." "And you, brother," said Sir Illifer. "Who are you?" "Poor fellows," said a big man with an axe. Despite the chill of the autumnal wood, he was shirtless, and on his breast was carved a 7-pointed star. And all warriors had carved such stars in their flesh when first they crossed the narrow sea to overwhelm the kingdoms of the first men. "We are marching to the city," said a tall woman in the traces of the wind, "to bring these holy bones to blessed Baelor, and seek succor and protection from the king." "Join us, friends," urged a spare, small man in a threadbare septon's robe, who wore a crystal on a thong about his neck. "Westeros has need of every sword." "We are bound for Duskendale," declared Sir Creighton, "but mayhaps we could see you safely to King's Landing." "If you have the coin to pay us for this escort," added Sir Illifer, who seemed practical as well as penniless. "Sparrows need no gold," the Septon said. Sir Creighton was lost. Sparrows? "The sparrow is the humblest and most common of birds, as we are the humblest and most common of men." The Septon had a lean, sharp face and a short beard, grizzled gray and brown. His thin hair was pulled back and knotted behind his head, and his feet were bare and black, gnarled and hard as tree roots. "These are the bones of holy men murdered for their faith. They served the Seven even unto death. Some starved, some were tortured. Septs have been despoiled, maidens and mothers raped by godless men and demon worshippers. Even silent sisters have been molested. Our Mother above cries out in her anguish. It is time for all anointed knights to forsake their worldly masters and defend our holy faith. Come with us to the city, if you love the Seven." "I love them well enough," said Illifer. "Yet I must eat." "So must all the mother's children." "We're bound for Duskendale," Sir Illifer said flatly. One of the begging brothers spat, and a woman gave a moan. "You are false knights," said the big man with the star carved on his chest. Several others brandished their cudgels. The barefoot Septon calmed them with a word. "Judge not, for judgment is the Father's. Let them pass in peace. They are poor fellows too, lost upon the earth." Brianna edged her mare forward. "My sister is lost as well. A girl of 3 and 10 with auburn hair, fair to look upon." "All the mother's children are fair to look upon. May the maiden watch over this poor girl, and you as well, I think." The Septon lifted one of the traces of the wain upon his shoulder and began to pull. The begging brothers took up the chant once more. Brianna and the hedge knights sat upon their horses as the procession moved slowly past, following the rutted road toward Rossbeach. The sound of their chanting slowly dwindled away and died. Sir Creighton lifted one cheek off the saddle to scratch his arse. What sort of man would slay a holy Septon? Brianna knew what sort. Near Maidenpool, she recalled, the brave companions had strung a Septon up by his heels from the limb of a tree and used his corpse for archery practice. She wondered if his bones were piled in that wain with all the rest. "A man would need to be a fool to rape a silent sister," Sir Creighton was saying. "Even to lay hands upon one. It's said they are the strangers' wives, and their female parts are cold and wet as ice." He glanced at Brianna. Beg pardon." Brianna spurred her mare toward Duskendale. After a moment, Sir Illifer followed, and Sir Creighton came bringing up the rear. 3 hours later, they came upon another party struggling toward Duskendale, a merchant and his serving men, accompanied by yet another hedge knight. The merchant rode a dappled gray mare, whilst his servants took turns pulling his wagon. 4 labored in the traces as the other 2 walked beside the wheels, but when they heard the sound of horses, they formed up around the wagon with quarterstaffs of ash at the ready. The merchant produced a crossbow, the knight a blade. "You will forgive me if I am suspicious," called the merchant, "but the times are troubled, and I have only good Sir Shadrach to defend me. Who are you?" "Why," Sir Creighton said, affronted, "I am the famous Sir Creighton Longbow, fresh from battle on the Blackwater, and this is my companion, Sir Illiffer the Penniless." "We mean you no harm," said Brianna. The merchant considered her doubtfully.
Smaller than the diagram.
"My lady, you should be safe at home. Why do you wear such unnatural garb?" "I am searching for my sister." She dared not mention Sansa's name, with her accused of regicide. "She is a highborn maiden, beautiful, with blue eyes and auburn hair. Perhaps you saw her with a courtly knight of 40 years, or a drunken fool? Now, the roads are full of drunken fools and despoiled maidens. As to portly knights, it's hard for any honest man to keep his belly round when so many lack for food, though your Sir Creighton has not hungered, it would seem." "I have big bones," Sir Creighton insisted. "Shall we ride together for a time? I do not doubt Sir Shadrach's valor, but he seems small, and 3 blades are better than 1. 4 blades, thought Brianna, but she held her tongue. The merchant looked to his escort.